That's
So good. You're totally fine. Don't worry about it. Yeah. So essentially, I like ideally would be the person to help elevate this any brand and kind of bring them to the market. Some past experience. I know we're probably going to talk about it, but this is usually in my like elevator pitch. Past experience. I've done marketing for a consulting firm. I've also done marketing for the health and wellness space, as well as a health tech company. And then most recently, I did the brand marketing for a professional hair care brand.
Oh, okay. So Natalie, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Natalie Schwan. I am in the part-time MBA program at Pepperdine. I own my own production company, a film production company, which I started about 7 years ago. So entrepreneur slash in the film entertainment space, mostly in the commercial branded, but now we're shifting into TV and film stuff. So lots of challenges, but super fun, and no day is the same. So I love it.
Yeah, I know a lot of our club members, they aspire to be entrepreneurs, so really excited for that.
Oh, great.
Aurora, can you introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm also in the full-time MBA program with Diane, and I did my internship with Citibank. I'm interested in going to like more business development, expanding operations within their digital space. And I was fortunate enough to secure a job early on in the process, so I can just, I'm chilling. But before Pepperdine, I was the head of payroll for the city of LA and their elections division. So I was doing a lot of stuff for the general elections and the neighborhood council elections. And because of COVID, we established testing operations over at Dodger Stadium. So if you guys got tested there, you probably saw me.
Okay, can we have Christina introduce yourself?
Hi, good morning. My name is Chris Diltz. You can call me Christine too. I am a nurse by trade, entrepreneur by heart, and by day I'm a chief strategy officer for a healthcare staffing firm, otherwise known as a travel nurse healthcare firm. And I dabble in so many different things. But as a chief strategy officer, I am looking at business development, strategizing, and how we can be more competitive in the market, but also develop competitive strategy as well. And then I still occasionally work as a nurse like I did last night. So I got off this morning at 8 a.m. And we made it. Yeah.
Wow, that's really cool.
Amazing.
We have Christina now. Introduce yourself.
Oh, sorry. Mic check. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right. I have like 5 laptops, so I always have to check my mics and stuff. So awesome. So yeah, the first name's Christina, last name's Ramirez. I graduated in August. So what I do is I'm a senior business application manager, and my role is a hybrid between IT and HR. So that happened because I first started my career in HR, and then I realized I was like, I don't like all this busy work, all this paper stuff. So I started shifting into like IT and how to streamline things, and how do we onboard employees through like electronically, so just that's kind of where it started. So now the current position that I'm in, it does exactly that. I started my new job in July, so it's been a lot, but it's been great. It's a lot of fun. Sorry, what else was I supposed to answer on this?
That was pretty much it.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Cool. I'm excited to be here.
Hi guys, I'm Sydney. Great to be here with you all. I graduated from the part-time BSM program last August. So currently I work for Disney as an allocation analyst. And what that means is just inventory management. I get the t-shirts, mugs to the Disney stores that you see at the mall. But I'm also pursuing entrepreneurship in the tech industry. So that's been a really exciting project I've been working recently. So excited to be here and get to know y'all. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we can answer or ask the next question.
Yeah. So like, let's say you're talking to someone who's never heard of the job or like has no idea what you do. Could you give us a basic rundown of your job and what you do like on a typical day? Let's start off with Diane.
Sure. So I'm going to go off of my most recent experience. So what I did essentially, if you were to walk into Ulta, because that's where we were sold, if you were to walk into Ulta and go to the hair section, there are different like gift sets and different like packaging and all of these different things. So essentially, I was part of the go-to-market team. So what that means is I had to prepare all of the products and all of the different like goods that were going to be going to the market. So anything you see in an Ulta going down to like the banners or like the little things on the at the cash register that really just grab you because like they look pretty, I don't know. And things that go into like holiday gift sets or like any value sets, things like that. I was the person kind of deciding what products kind of what we want to take and what we want to develop and affect our bottom line. Those were the things that I was picking and like based off of making those decisions based off of like seasonality and like what's been doing well, what's not been doing well, kind of like putting all those things together. And then also essentially putting all of the boxes and like all of the copy and things like that. So I was the person doing that, I guess is like the best way to put it. So if you ever see like, there's always like, the thing that I thought about was like, if you were to go into like a Sephora, for example, like all of the signage, all of the cute little like things that are like, here's new, or like, here's our reviews, or like, here's our gift sets. Like that's something that you can do as a role. And that's kind of what I did this summer.
Oh, I'm definitely going to be thinking about that. Like whenever I go into
Yeah.
the
Now
store
when you walk
now.
into like store, there's someone who put this together. So yeah.
Now, Natalie, could you tell us about like your job and what you're doing a day?
Sure. It's truly different every single day, kind of depending on what project I'm doing. So I'll kind of split it into two things. So on the one side, my company makes like commercials, music videos, branded content, from start to finish. So brands will come to us and be like, hey, we have this big photo campaign or video campaign that we want to do. We're going to hire you to make it happen. So from that, I have budgets that come through. I hire the whole team. I do the casting and make the shoot happen. And then we edit everything, put it together for the client and give it to them. And then for like the TV and film side, it's kind of similar where I'm basically pitching these projects at any given time. So we're working on a TV show right now that we are trying to get different casts attached. So I go to all their agents, I'm pitching the project, I'm slowly putting all the pieces together of this package of like, okay, we have our script, we have our cast, we have a director that's interested. I put together this, it's called a package. I put together this thing where people are attached. And then we go to a streamer or a studio and say, here's our package, please give us the money to make this. But you basically have to do all the work for them and show them why this is going to be successful. But yeah, it's so a lot of my job is kind of putting teams together. I feel like that's kind of a way to summarize it, but it's very different based on what kind of job I'm doing.
Wow, sounds like a lot of like cooperative work.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, Aurora, could you tell us about a day for you?
Oh yeah, sure. So my internship, it was more of like a rotational program. So I can do like a bunch of different things. What I did this summer was quality assurance for Citibank's mortgage clients. And so we were any kind of mortgage you get, there's a bunch of risks that tie into that. And then what my team did, we monitored them, and they were going through this whole transformation change. So like an example of like a risk is there's like someone in the military, they get deployed, and then automatically they're not supposed to be paying their mortgage. So we need to keep track of that. And then what I did a lot of the time was I just made like a bunch of spreadsheets to help them keep track of their original files. And then as they transfer it to electronic, that way things are done more efficiently. I will not be doing that when I start. I'm going to be part of a different team and a different rotation. So the nice thing about this is I'll be working with 3 different teams for 2 years. And from there, I get to decide what I want to do.
Oh yeah, a lot of like variety.
A lot of flexibility.
That's great. Next up, we have Chris. Tell us about your day.
Yeah, so I wear many hats as a chief strategy officer for a mid-sized company. We're still kind of operating in a startup kind of phase, it seems like, trying to get over that. So with that being said, a lot of my day is doing market and competitive research. What's the landscape looking like? Because it's a very volatile and constantly changing environment space. As you guys all know, with COVID-19 that happened, you may have heard that there's like a lot of attrition rates in nurses, and they're kind of jumping from like the staff nurse into travel nursing. And so how are we going to be a competitive advantage? Developing budgets, working with my CEO, and kind of forecasting what our futures are going to look like, which is extremely interesting and difficult when you have such a volatile market. I also, funny enough, I still do a lot of educating on some of our prospective healthcare professionals of this space, of like what that looks like, what is travel nursing, what is travel healthcare in just general, and then clinical support. So if like we have a healthcare professional that may have run into some issues while on assignment or on contract, I'm there to kind of support them. Currently, what's kind of cool is I'm developing a clinician experience department, which I've never created a department in my life. So there's some challenges there, but I have full reign to kind of build this team that's going to help support basically all the healthcare professionals that we come into contact with, that we put on assignment. And then the bigger, I guess the big money maker is client acquisitions, or clients being the facilities or hospitals as we know it.
Oh, wow, that's a lot of different things.
Yeah.
All right, Christina, please tell us about your work.
Yeah, awesome. So I'm basically in charge of the HR system where all of the employee database is housed. So essentially from the beginning of the recruiting, the onboarding, employee access, the setup, the training, updating like management and the process flows, I'm in charge of that. And what I do every day is we're working towards always improving those processes and enhancing employee experience. So when the system breaks down, because it does for some reason, sometimes the slightest thing within a file can wreck the file feeds. So when that happens, everyone knows and everyone sends you an email, and sometimes you wake up and it's just a huge flow of stuff. You're like, oh my God, what happened? What broke? So you just kind of have to be ready to put out a lot of fires. That happened to me earlier this week. So it's exhausting, but it's actually really rewarding when you figure out and how to solve the problem. And we just have to fix it. We have to be ready to fix things when they break. And that's what I do. I enhance and I fix things, and sometimes I break them, but then I learn.
Yeah. Oh, problem solving is so important.
Yeah.
And now, last but not least, Sydney, please tell us about your day or like a work.
Yeah, so as mentioned, allocation, right? And so that essentially means placing the inventory at the right stores and when the stores need it. So there's a lot of tracking with our supply chain, distribution centers, making sure things are tracking when things are going to be ready for me to allocate. So just a lot of, upkeep with our cross-functional partners in many departments. And so essentially, it's making sure that the stores have what they need, replenish. I manage 3 departments, which is sleepwear, graphics, and mugs, or homeware. So making sure all of that product, I touch over 3,000 SKUs every day. So ensuring that the stores have what they need, they're getting the newness, and tracking everything would be what I do. Yeah.
Oh, great. It's so interesting. Kayla wanted to ask us the next question.
Yes. So now that we know everyone and what they do, we want to ask, why did you choose your specific job, and did the choice develop throughout your years of experience, or did you know from the start at a young age? And we can start off with Diane.
So why did let me see. So I did not, I'm going to start backwards. I did not think that I was going to end up actually in business school, to be fully transparent. So that's something that you guys honestly, like, I'm sure everyone on this panel as well, like, your career is not a straight line. Your path is not a straight line. It's a journey with many twists and turns, some expected, some unexpected. So that's kind of like where I want to start, because originally going into college, I thought I was going to pursue medicine and go to medical school and do the whole kit and caboodle of that, especially because like a lot of my family is in medicine. I totally thought that that was the path for me. But then kind of going through and like figuring out who I am and like what I wanted to do as a person, that just kind of like didn't necessarily align with who I thought I was going to be and what I wanted my future to be. So essentially I kind of figured out that I wanted to do marketing specifically with branding because I really like storytelling. I like being part of that kind of like journey as well, kind of, and there are a lot of different opportunities, especially in marketing, to kind of figure out what you would like to do. So I guess the reason why I picked brand marketing in particular is because like I like being able to, again, tell that story, be part of the brand's kind of like bringing it to market and seeing what consumers kind of see because of it. And also just because it kind of fascinates me, like why people pick certain things. Like on Instagram, for example, like all of my Instagram ads are very tailored to me, mostly because I'm engaging with it, but also because like for the most part, I'm clicking something because I like what the story is being told. So I kind of like that idea. And I guess it definitely wasn't something that developed, but I guess I've always liked telling stories and like being part of that and like things like that. So I guess I've kind of had it always in me, but I definitely originally did not think I was going to be in business or doing marketing or anything really when I was younger.
Yeah, I actually think that's really cool. I feel like, especially for me and like a lot of other high schoolers, we can tend to feel like it's daunting having to apply to colleges and they're already asking you what you want to be at such a young age. But just being able to know like you can still be successful and just be curious at the same time and figure out what you want to do. I feel like that's really inspiring, especially since I had an idea of what I wanted to be, but now it's kind of altering by every single day. So
Yeah.
see what I end up doing.
I will also say like being able to just it's easy to say it, very hard to do it, but like being okay with like if you think, oh, I think I want to go in this direction and it like doesn't pan out or like that's kind of not where it goes, being okay with that is very hard to accept, but also it's very like when you realize, okay, the preconceived notion in my head doesn't have to be the thing that I do because like people change, things change, thoughts change, like ideas change. It's very okay to kind of think you're going in one direction and going in a different direction. So
Yes, I agree. All right, so let's switch it up. We'll have Sydney next.
Yeah, so for me, I come from a fashion background, so I went to FITM. I don't know if you guys are familiar. And so that's when I started. I was like, I want to be in fashion. I want to work for like, a big couture house, doing something business related. And so that's how I started my career, right, in fashion, doing trade shows. But then one thing led to another, and I ended up at Disney in entertainment. And so it was kind of I learned about allocations through my studies, but I never was like attracted to it. I was like, okay, this is a path I could take, but like I don't want to do that precisely. I didn't see myself doing that. And so then this role kind of just came to me. And I was like, all right, let me explore it. And it's been great so far. It's really as Diane mentioned, just seeing how the consumers interact with the product, right? And like seeing those shelves full of mugs, full of toys, full of t-shirts. It's like kind of really rewarding that I put that there, and like now consumers get to purchase it, enjoy it, experience it. So yeah, it definitely wasn't linear, but it kind of all molded together with my fashion background and, now retail and entertainment. So it's been quite the journey.
Yeah, that's really cool how like it's almost like going with the flow or just like being open to the different opportunities that come your way and just not being like close-minded when it comes to those things and taking those opportunities and seeing where it takes you. I think that is important.
Taking the risk for sure, and like when I took on this where I was like, I took a class. I've never worked in allocations, but like I'll try it, like and the opportunity was given, which was really amazing. And just taking that leap, right, of I kind of know what I'm doing, but like I really don't, and I'm gonna go for it.
Yes. All right. Can we have Aurora?
Yes, so I mean, my story is very similar to Diane. I came in to my undergrad wanting to go into med school, and it took me 4 years to admit to myself that I didn't want to do it. And in my last semester of my last year in college, I actually ended up taking an accounting class because I needed something to, I need more credits to be full-time student. I was taking all these 8-unit courses in college. So I really liked accounting. I don't know why. And then from there, from there, I just, I'm in the back of my mind, I knew I had to go to grad school right after I got my bachelor's, just so, I don't know why. That was just my trajectory of what I thought things should, of how I thought things should take place. And then I reached out to people at UCLA and then other programs getting their MBAs, because that was like, I wanted to do a career switch. And one thing they told me was, don't rush, you need to get work experience, because when you come into class, you need to be able to contribute to the discussion, and that you bring value to your classmates, just as much value as they bring to you. So when I started working with the city, I got that leadership experience. And from there, I mean, government work is a really honorable job. It just wasn't for me. So I wanted something a little bit more corporate. That's why I pursued where I'm at with Citibank right now. It's a leadership development program. So if you don't know necessarily what you want to do in these programs, you can do rotations in marketing, strategy, HR. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do, but I kind of have an idea now after working with Citibank and with the work experience I've gotten.
Wow, I think that's really cool. Like just being able to like get experience and using that to talk and really speak out, like in the different environments, like in the class. So I think that's
Oh,
really
yeah. I mean, you need to know what you don't like and what you like. I spend a lot of time doing stuff that I don't like. So
yeah. Okay, and can we have Natalie now?
Sure. So I originally wanted, like, my dream job was to work for National Geographic and be like a photojournalist. I went to school for journalism. And then I found out I did not like what journalism actually was. I had this dream in my head of what it looked like, which I think happens a lot. Like you think you know what it's going to be, or just that industry changes by the time you get to school, that it's not the same situation. So I did that. I tried a bunch of different things. I ended up getting a marketing degree. And then I worked in publicity and not entertainment, events. So I worked for an event company in PR, and then I thought I wanted to do entertainment PR, and then I realized I just wanted to do entertainment. So it took me some time to kind of leapfrog, and always had an interest in film, but never thought I could make a career out of it, which I'm not going to lie, it is a very challenging industry to break into. And my family, very well-intentioned, was like, you're never going to make it. And, that's coming from a space of reality. Like, I literally am in one of the most competitive, challenging industries, but I really wanted to do it. And I just kept at it. Yeah. So I think, did I miss any part of the question? You were just asking how we got to where we are.
Yeah, just like if you
Okay.
wanted to do it from the beginning, but
Yeah. And kind of touching on what everyone else has said, it's okay to not know what you're doing. Also, I think it's just important to take a step and just be open if the path deviates in a different direction. I think the hardest thing is just to sit and not know, oh, I want to do this. I want to do this. I'm stuck. I can't make a choice. But I can give anyone advice, just pick a path and start. And then if you're like, oh, actually, I hate this, then you can pivot. But it's like not knowing what to do that I think you can get really stuck. And I will say, I mean, this is amazing that you guys are high school students and want to talk to us. Like, I wish I was doing that in high school. So you guys are already ahead of the game. But even like the jobs that I had in high school and early college, they all had value. Like even working at a restaurant, like all those things that might not feel like they're adding to your career path. Every single job I've had, I've learned something that I now use. So just like be open to the stepping stones to get there, because they're probably more valuable than you might think.
right. And I mean, especially at Granada, we have this thing called DECA, which is like a business organization. And we have a teacher called, his name's Mr. T, and he always tells us like, go out there and work. You want like those real world experiences.
Yeah.
Like that's really valuable.
They're
And
so valuable.
Yes, yes. Like especially like getting to talk to people, strangers, and having to combat that. But then also something you said was like when you knew what you wanted, like you kept wanting to pursue it, even though you're like your family said something else. Like I feel like that's I feel
Yeah.
like, I mean,
It's hard.
entertainment is really hard, but I mean, I think it's a main contributor to like pursuing a career is just like having that drive and that passion for it also.
Yeah. And then, I mean, you have to be honest with yourself. Like, I've been lucky that I've been able to continue. Like, when I first started my business, I was still working 3 other jobs. Like, it wasn't like I started my business, I'm successful. It took a long time to really like be making money and be successful. But I think you kind of find that out. If it's really hard and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, then that's maybe a sign that it's not actually what you want to do. But if it's really hard and you still are excited, even when it's hard, like keep going, like just it's gonna be okay. But also listen to yourself if you're like, ooh, what? I hate this now. You know, when adversity comes at you with your career, it can be a sign maybe that it's actually not what you want to do. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Yes, I agree. Okay, can we have Christine now?
So I feel like,
Me.
yeah, I was like,
Christine, go ahead.
Oh, I meant like Chris. Is
Oh,
that-
okay.
I
Yeah,
was
yeah,
like,
okay.
hear that.
No, you're fine. I just want to be clear. Yeah, so I feel like I'm like the poster child of not kind of what Diane said of not being linear with your career and it's not a straight line. Funny enough, in high school, I wanted to be a marine biologist, and then that led into actually pursuing an interior design degree. I was close to graduation in college with interior design, and 2007 loomed and 2008 hit. So if you guys aren't familiar, that was the big market crash. And my dad, being a finance professor, was like, yeah, you're not living at home at 30, so figure out something else you're going to do. And that meant not pursuing interior design because people were not spending money at that time. So I had to quickly change directions and went down the route of nursing. And funny enough, I thought it was going to be an easy degree that I could just acquire. Boy, was I wrong, and found that I actually thoroughly enjoyed nursing, was good at it, and pursued that for a long time. Thought I was going to be a nurse for 30 plus years. And about 4 years ago, a couple years before COVID, I started getting really burnt out because, believe it or not, it's a very abusive relationship, healthcare is. And I wanted to start thinking like outside the box, like what am I going to do? So then COVID hit, and I had been travel nursing for quite some time because that kind of alleviates some of the burnout. And I got to paid to travel and go have fun and travel. But it just wasn't like feeding that passion, that desire of like wanting to do more. And so that's when I created my consulting firm. And like Natalie said, it's those day-to-day hard those hard days that you're just like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do, but you're like, yes, this is what I want to do. And doing that, creating that consulting firm led me into pursuing my MBA because I didn't know jack diddly about business and didn't want to completely fall flat on my face. And then because I pursued my MBA, got me into this role as a CSO. And so when you are thinking about like, oh, I have to have this blinder on of like, this is the direct path, absolutely not. And I'll tell you right now, like my current, when I grow up, what I want to be when I grow up is I'm looking at maybe being a CEO of a hospital, but who knows, that could change. I'm only 36, so who knows? But yeah, it's fun. And again, like what Diane said, is the journey is the fun part, and you grow. And as long as you're growing and you're learning something about yourself, you learn a lot about life and how the world works. And if you can kind of mingle all those learnings into a career path, then it's worthwhile.
Yeah, and also something you said how like you had your job and you knew you wanted to do nursing, but then it wasn't quite like there yet, like you got burned out. So then you still pursued nursing, but you just switched the way that you pursued it. I thought that was really cool. And
Creative, just thinking outside that box, right?
Okay, now we can have Christina.
Yeah, so 100% true, right? I don't know. I think very few people have a linear path. That question, what do you want to be when you grow up? I think it's a very huge question for a young adult. I can tell you in the last like 10, 12 years, I started my college. When I started, I started off with nursing. So from nursing, I went to anthropology, and then from anthropology, I went to HR, and now I'm in IT, right? So, people are like, where are you? Like, and but same thing throughout my jobs that I've had, even through high school and early college, I've learned something, and you grow. So don't be afraid to make change, because that's okay. Because as we grow, we change. So it's okay to change your career as well. My recommendation is just always keep learning, always like keep updating your skills. And yeah, just like when something isn't right, do you enjoy fixing it, or do you just hate it? So always, take that into consideration. So don't be afraid to change, and it's okay. Just do it. Start learning new things. So that's my recommendation.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. All right, Phoebe, you can ask the next question.
All right. So now like now that you know like what you guys do and like how you guys got there. So what type of skills or like traits do you think someone in your area would need? Like what type of person would do really well at your job? Could we start off with Aurora?
Yeah, sure. I would say great communication skills and just being socially aware, because you will be working with people in different departments, and within those departments, they communicate differently with each other. And just be mindful of your tone. You don't want, like, just because, like with me, I came in as an MBA intern, and there were people that have been there for a while, and I had to manage them. So just kind of being respectful of how you talk to them, try to like learn their language. That way you can communicate with them efficiently. Also, just being proactive when you're trying to solve problems. Ask questions even though they're dumb. Like, I had two bosses that I had to answer to, and I would stop them during meetings to have them explain to me some things, and then just voice your opinions in a respectful manner, and just make sure like you need to communicate what's not working for you. That way they can help you, your managers can help you.
Yes, that's important. Do you think like communication is something that you learn, or like it's just something you're naturally good
It's something that comes over time. But I mean, at first, when you start at any job, you really need to just put yourself out there. It's okay to ask dumb questions.
Wow, awesome. All right. Christina, what about you? Like, what type of person would be good at your job?
Yeah, kind of going off of what Aurora said, is definitely communication skills. It's a really big thing. And I would say I've improved my communication skills by reading. I think it's really helpful when you read, especially when you read things that are within your field. So reading people skills is a big one, right? We all come from different backgrounds. So being respectful towards everyone, and honestly, kindness, really, really practice kindness. Some people, when you go into the workforce, some people come at you and, they might be mean to you, but don't feed into that, right? Just politely respond, because you never know what kind of day they're having. You don't know what's going on in their home. So always practice kindness, people skills, and communication skills.
Oh yeah, isn't it like difficult just being nice all the time?
It's exhausting. I'm exhausted every day, because every day, when I send my emails, I'm really polite. I'm not short with people. I ask, a full question. I respond completely to everyone's answers. So yeah, it's exhausting, but we have to do it.
Right. Natalie, what about you?
Is the question what skills people should have, or like what kind of person might like this job?
Like what skills or traits like that a person
Okay.
would have?
So kind of two-pronged, but similar. So like it's kind of like the entrepreneur side and then the film side, which maybe are a little bit different, but both require a lot of resilience. You have to be, I am like immune to rejection at this point. I get rejected from things on like 500 times a day. I don't take it personally. At first I did take it personally and it was really hard, but I think just like a resilience, not taking rejection personally, hardworking, and knowing that it's like it's not like we talked a lot today, like it's not a linear process, and it's not like you're going to put in X amount of hours and you're going to see the results. It's not like that. My success is like this. Even at this point in my career, I'll have a huge success, fail, and that's just, I've learned how to accept that and ride the waves. For film and really for entrepreneurship as well, creativity, you have to at least be attracted to some part of the creative process, unless you're really interested in being like a studio exec, which is basically just like a CEO of a company, where you're looking at films that are coming in and you're looking at them strictly from a dollars and cents perspective. It's kind of similar just to being a manager of any kind of product. So if you're just interested in like, I just want to work in like the studio side and kind of like the C-suite level, not as much creativity. It's part of the product that you're selling, but the job description is really just managing a business. But yeah, you've got to be very flexible, creative, like people, because film is not solo. You cannot, it's not like I can just go write a book by myself. I'm working with teams. The smallest team on a film is usually like a short film or a commercial is like 25 people. So, and I've gone up to working with 200 people on a set. So you're around people all the time, and you've got to be at least like working with people, because there's not really a way to do it alone. So that's another thing to consider.
Oh, you're right. That's so interesting. Did you ever like lose confidence in your abilities like after a rejection?
Every day. I mean, literally now. I was just at this big things called the American Film Market. It's been happening in Santa Monica all week, where like all the studios are there and all the production houses are there. And I've been pitching all these projects. And I mean, even now I lose confidence. I'm like, wow, I'm like such a small little player in such a big game. But you just keep pushing forward, and it's like, it's a dance. You have to know that rejection isn't personal. We've gotten so close. I can talk about one example. We have been pitching to Amazon for a TV show for over a year. You have to go to one person, then you go to the next person, then you go to the next person. And we were like so close to getting this film made. And then at the end of it, they're like, oh no, we have a competing project that's very similar, so we're not going to greenlight it. And it had nothing to do with us, nothing to do with the process. I was like, why didn't you tell us this when you knew? But whatever, there's ways in the studio that they do it their way. But and I was proud of myself because I didn't feel rejected that time. And I think even 6 months ago, I would have been pretty crushed, but I was like, okay, on to the next one. So you kind of just have to have this kind of armor that you build up. And I've talked about this to people that are like, oh, I want to be an entrepreneur. It's not just film, just entrepreneurship in general. Like, you're going to face a lot of rejection. You have to have a support system. And it can be really hard as an entrepreneur because you feel like you're doing everything yourself. And I don't have a business partner. It's just me running it. So those times when you feel really rejected, whether it's friends, whether it's someone in your high school or your class, or for us MBA students, someone in your cohort, just someone that can be like there for you when you have those moments of feeling rejected and like you failed. You didn't fail. I mean, showing up and pitching is success in itself. Like, if you show up, and that's kind of what I told myself at this market. I was like, wow, this didn't go the way I thought, but I'm like, you know what? I made 30 connections. That's something. I showed up and I networked, even though like these people were super intimidating. That's a success. So I think it's also reframing the way you define success and failure as well.
Wow, yeah, like keeping your head up.
Yes.
Chris, could you tell us like any traits that would help you in your career?
Yeah, so I guess from like the nurse perspective, compassion. I think and I think that can be industry, like across all industries. It's just having compassion, kind of being like that kindness, but just compassion. I think the other big thing too is imagination. One of my favorite quotes from Einstein is, "The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination." And so when you open up your imagination, anything is possible, and that leads into confidence. And I would say confidence and tenacity are probably the four top, or adding to the four types of personality traits or things to possess to be successful but I think it's not just my industry specific. I think that's all, especially as females, especially as we go through, I think we face our own challenges that society places on us. And so we have to be tenacious and confident that we are doing and following the path that we are wanting and are destined to do.
All right, that's amazing. Next, we have Sydney.
Yeah, so for my role in particular, I think creative thinking and just being, highly attentive to the detail, because you're working with a lot of styles, you're working with units. And so like just one little slip, you could send 1 unit or 100 units or 10 units. And that could really like mess up, the distribution to other stores. And then maybe a store can't take 100 units of one t-shirt. And so it's definitely lots of attention to detail, because you're working with product, and it could make or break a store's back room. And then also like many of the other girls mentioned, the communication is super important. I don't think there is a job that you're not going to be talking to other people. And so just having that collaboration approach, and like Natalie mentioned, don't take things personal, like separate yourself from the role, from the people, and from what is being said to you, and be like, this is the job. It has nothing to do with me. It's, next, right? Like, okay, I need to not send 20 next time. All right, next, like I didn't know, now I do. And so we know. So yeah, definitely not taking things personal, and just, focusing on the role, and that has nothing to do with you would be one of the biggest things. But yeah.
Oh, you mentioned that like little details could like make a big difference. Like, how do you come back like after you make such a big mistake and you feel guilty? Like, how do you
Yeah,
manage?
so that's where the creative thinking comes, right? It's like, okay, how do I fix this? What stores are nearby? Can I funnel this to other stores? Like, do I UPS it over? Can I cancel that allocation? So it's finding these like creative solutions to like, oh, gee, I did put like 100 units and they can't take it. So let me figure out how I can solve this. And either divert things or cancel things. And or maybe we do a promo, right? Maybe it wasn't just me, maybe other things because sometimes our pallets, our deliveries get mixed up. So like stores get stuff they weren't supposed to because of other causes. And so it's like, how do we get rid of this inventory that wasn't supposed to go there? So that's when the creative thinking comes to play, to kind of, and that too, right? It's like, don't feel bad about the mistake, right? Like, it's like, okay, yeah, I've sent those 100 units that probably didn't have to go there, but let me fix it and let me think how to make it better.
Oh, awesome. And finally, Diane.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of the women on the panel have spoken about a lot of traits and characteristics definitely needed, especially like, as you can tell, because all of us come from like very different industries and different backgrounds, different positions, like a lot of the things you can learn. Like, it's not just industry specific. You don't have to be, well, if you're a finance person, clearly you need to know how to use Excel, but like, that's, beside the point. Like, a lot of people use Excel. I use Excel. I know Aurora uses Excel. I'm sure everyone on here uses Excel. But so it's like really one of those things where you can develop these traits. So I agree with all of the things that have been said. Time management, definitely. I know, Sydney, you kind of touched on that as well. That was something that I am continuing to learn. And I feel like people continue to learn that, because when you're creative with different projects, like different timelines and different competing timelines, that's something that you have to definitely consider. But that's also something that you can learn, not just on the job. Like, you can learn it as in your personal life, like, oh, managing your own time, like having to figure out who you're scheduling what with when and things like that. And then I guess also, yeah, creativity also is like one of the things, but like, I think being able to learn from your mistakes is a good trait to kind of sum it all up as like one of my contributing things, like being able to say, like, I know Sydney, you had also talked about it, like you can move on from the, like you made the mistake, move on from it, but also kind of like taking into consideration, once you know better, now you can do better. So being able to like learn from your mistakes and not kind of having to like sit in that like guilt of being like, oh man, I ordered this or I did XYZ, being able to be like, okay, I made this mistake, but now that I know that I've made it, I know that I no longer have to make it. I know what to do better. So kind of being able to kind of pick yourself back up after that as well is something that it's probably a good trait that can be applicable to a lot of different fields, a lot of different aspects. And it's a very hard lesson, but it's a lesson that you can continually develop.
You mentioned that like people could develop traits and stuff.
Mhm.
So I'm naturally more of an introvert and kind of socially awkward sometimes, and if I wanted to get into a field that requires like a lot of people skills, like communication and talking to everyone, do you think that's something like I could learn, or do you think I'd just like struggle the whole way?
So honestly, it really is like any skill can be learned. Like it's like one of those things that you don't really think about, but like literally any skill can be learned, and a lot of the times on the job as well. A lot of skills are learned and a lot of skills are transferable. So like, for example, like being a more introverted leaning person is not necessarily a hindrance on you. It's just a matter of like, you can think about it as like, you're more selective with who you want to spend your time with or who you want to communicate with. But like in the workplace, you don't necessarily have that kind of option to be selective of who you're communicating with. So instead of just being like, oh, I need to be more extroverted to kind of succeed in this role, it's just a matter of, oh, I need to be more clear and concise in what I'm saying so that they know how I'm communicating to them. Because also in general, like being an introverted or an extroverted person, it's really just a matter of like how much you're communicating with someone in general, like in terms of like a working position. Essentially, like I've worked with very quiet folks. I've worked with very like boisterous and loud folks. Like it really just, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of like how, especially at a job, in terms of a job and like at like projects and things like that, it's just a matter of like how you're communicating to that person so that, you know, like, yes, I am quiet. I don't necessarily speak out as much, but like I am contributing. Here are the things that I'm doing on this project, or like, here are all the things that I needed to do that you asked me to do. Here they are. It's really like, and also just like practicing. So like being introverted, it's like, a lot of the times, especially like in business school, they tell you like you have to network, and networking is a very scary thing to do, especially if you're not as comfortable speaking with folks or like reaching out to different people. But the kind of like good thing about it is that a lot more people are willing to speak with you than you could kind of like think about it. It's like you may internalize that it's like, oh, I'm bothering them. But for the most part, if you're very clear about what you're asking for, so like, especially with like being as like a student, a lot of the times like Pepperdine is like, you know, use that to your advantage, because you're like, we were all in your shoes at one point. So like all of us on the panel, we were all high schoolers at one point in time. So we know exactly what this feels like. So that's why we were like, you know what, I'm so willing to help, just because we had gone through that experience. So in networking, like I think networking is probably the number one, like, oh, like I don't know if I could do that. A lot of people can. It's just like a matter of like, you can email network. You don't necessarily have to face-to-face or Zoom or like call someone. It's really just like a skill that is practiced. And like, if you really just like, you know, work at it, it's like, you got to be creative with how you think of how you approach introversion versus extroversion, I guess is like the best way to put it. I don't know. Anyone else on the panel, does that make sense?
I think I think people misunderstand that like to be successful at networking, you have to be extroverted.
Yeah.
I'm also very extroverted and I still struggle with networking. And I will share two things that I learned recently that have really changed my mindset on how to network. One, assume everyone in the room likes you, whether you feel it or not. Just tell yourself everybody likes you. And two, if you are introverted, or regardless, this is just a great tool. Just ask a ton of questions. You don't have to be the one that's navigating the conversation. If you're a little bit reserved, you feel like you don't know very much about whatever the industry is that you're networking, just ask people questions and let them be the one that fills the conversation if you're nervous and you don't know what to say. And those are things I literally used in this panel this weekend, or the market this weekend, where I was like, I felt intimidated and I just had to be like, no, just walk in there and assume everybody likes you. And just having that mindset will change the way you interact with people and change the way that you come across. And then when I was like going up to someone that I was intimidated by, I just asked questions and didn't feel the need to be like, I'm going to pretend I'm an expert when I'm not. So those are two things that I've recently learned that just really help.
Yeah, I
And
really
then-
like the confidence thing. Oh, go ahead, Chris.
No. I was gonna say to tack on to Natalie is like the more you do that too, the more confidence you're gonna build, and the easier it's gonna get. And I swear people can sense when you walk into a room and you have confidence. You don't know anybody in there, but they can sense that you walk in there with your head held high and your high heels on, and you feel so confident. And you're like, and you do, and people just kind of gravitate to you. So just wanted to tack on that with Natalie, because but it gets easier over time, I feel like.
Yeah, so like almost like fake it till you make it, and then once you have it, like it's almost like attractive in the way that you just have that confidence and everyone just, But yeah, okay, so we're actually at almost 11. So this will conclude our panel. Thank you guys so much for coming today. I learned so much, and the things in the chat were also very, very helpful. I'm sure our club learned a lot as well. I'm really grateful, and I really hope everyone's inspired, whether they learned more about the different fields and careers, or they're just encouraged to be curious and to pursue different things, even if they might fail in the beginning, or there's lots of challenges, just to keep going at it, or to let life take them away and see where they end up. I think that's really important also. So Phoebe, would you like to add?
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you guys so much for coming. I actually learned a lot, and thank you for all the tips and all the little insights into your careers. We really appreciate it, and yeah, just thank you so much.